this Parshat Bamidbar, a person might see it like, oh, wow. And it's translated, even though Bamidbar is in the desert, it's translated in many Chumashim as numbers, because there's so many numbers here. And what? Yeah, I don't know who gave it. It's from the Christians. Even the chapters are from the Christians, which is a side point, not for now, because we have too much to do. Why the Christians introduce the concept of chapters throughout Tanakh? Why does every firm publisher, till this day, publish according to chapters? That was from the Christians. You would think Hasidim, especially where they're so careful to be insulated away from any foreign exposure, that over the years they would have published a separate Chumash, not anything to do with the Christian chapters. It's an interesting topic, but not for now. Rav Aryeh Kaplan's Itzal, in his Living Torah, he tried to minimize the chapters and focus more on the paragraphs that our Masorah has. Either way, so over here, so you might read the Parsha, it has just numbers and boring, Chas v'Shalom. And then it's a history. Chapter 2 is a little bit of history about where the Mishkan was and who was immediately around the Mishkan. Perek Beis says the Leviim were around the Mishkan. Who were around the Mishkan? The Leviim. The Yisraelim, and Dan was in this area, and Naphtali was here, Reuven was there, Moshe was there, and everyone was placed in different places surrounding the Mishkan, surrounding Leviim who were surrounding the Mishkan. So it's beautiful history. It is not history. It is history, but it's not only history at all. It is unbelievable halacha. And Mitzvah Hashem next week I hope, because next week in Nassau, it talks about these machanot, and it also talks about who had to leave which machaneh. A mitzorah, where can he be? Or she, where do they have to be kicked out from? And what about someone who is tamei from other kind of tumas? What if someone is tamei mace? Where do they have to? Are they allowed to go? And anything that occurred in the Midbar, all those halachas apply to where? The 3 camps in Jerusalem today. Halacha for halacha, and we have in the old city area, that is the Machane Yisrael. Whatever was allowed there is allowed here. The Shevet Levi area is what? Today that's called Har Habayit. Whatever was allowed there is allowed here. And then the Azara, where the Holy of Holies and the Kodesh is, unfortunately we have that despicable structure there that should have been wiped out in 67, but we missed that opportunity. And that's the place of the Mikdash. And whatever halachas apply to the Mishkan, whoever was allowed to go to the Mishkan could go there. So all the halachas in these 2 parshios, where the camps are, and who's allowed to be, that's all halacha l'maisa for today. You say, well, R.Myers, thank you for being optimistic, but not really for today, but when we have the Mikdash back. No. Oh, you say, oh, because you're Harabaya crazy, right? That's why. No, every one of us, every person here. Anyone ever heard of the wall in Yerushalayim? The Wailing Wall, Kotel? You heard of that place? You go there? Yeah? You put your fingers on the wall as you daven, put your fingers inside the Kotel? You do? Ooh, is that so simple? Maybe you are considering entering into Har Habayit. And there are those poskim that said just that don't go right up to the kotel, or if you do, don't put your fingers inside, because as if you're going into Habayis. So it applies to every single person. The halacha is, that we're going to get into more next week, but on Perek Beis it talks about the flags. So how do I not, on the Yerushalayim week, Yom Yerushalayim, we're all walking out with our flags, how do we not talk about the flags of this week's Parsha? And the Medrash describes the different flags that each Shevet had. They were colorful, and each had different images on it, and that's Perek Beis. So Perek Aleph in Babima is the numbers, okay, where it gives the household Binyamin and Dan and Naphtali and all that. Perek Beis, Ish al diglo ba'osos leveisav osam yachnu b'nei Yisrael b'neged saviv lo moed yachanu, that we were all by our degel. And then it goes that you have the Mizracha, the most east, Degel Machane Yehuda, and they had their Degel. And then you had the people that joined the main Shevet there. The next group, Degel Machane Reuven, were Teimana, south. They were in the south. Taiman, which used to have good associations. I don't have such good warm feelings anymore. Anyways, and then you have all the tribes who were with them. Then you have Machane Levim in the middle, and then you have Daigam Machane Dan, Safona, they were in the north, with the tribes who were with them, Asher and Naphtali, and then you have the final listing of all the places who was where, and the flags. So when people say the flag of Israel is a secular symbol, the concept of a flag is not a secular idea. It comes from here. You can argue and debate the application of a flag to Medinat Yisrael. Should you get goosebumps from it? Should you just run away from it? That's a nice question. And the Rav had a famous piece on the flag. Rav Kook spoke about the flag, and everyone, has what to say about the flag, pro or con. Obviously, the pro-Zionim, the religious Zionists, will look at the flag in a positive way of coming back to our identity, our national identity, and other things as well. The Rav had a chiddush that Chayal is buried in the flag, and that's symbolic of different things. Interesting ideas. But Rav Kook connects it to the original flags here. But listen, what was the picture on each Shevet? The same one? Absolutely not. Each Shevet had his own picture. Okay? So
Why don't we have? So what tribes coming back?
The flag is going to come back. That's a great question. It's always a fun question to look. What halachas do we have that were historical? The copper serpent put around the staff, right? Which is now used by Mada. Right? Mm-hmm. All around the world, I think it has the picture of the staff and the snake. That's just a nice thing to learn, but it's not halacha l'maisa. Adam and Chava in the Gan Eden. The flags, was that just then? Are we going to bring back those flags again? Great question. So listen to the Midrashim, which talks about the flag of each Shevet, and he says the following. He says, Hamida shel nekama. So this is, I'm quoting from R.Myers Kahana in his magnum opus, Or Harayon. And call me biased, that's fine, but if you ask me where does Or Harayon fit in the list of books, so you ever heard of the first Jewish organized philosophy? They say the Rambam Mo Nevuchim was the first book of organized Jewish philosophy, but I don't think so. It's Sadia Gaon a couple centuries before, and Munot the Deyot, books of thoughts and opinions. Then you have Bachi ben Bakuda Chavot Levavo. You have Kuzari, the Mo Nevuchim, Chazkei Kreskas, Albo, all the great Jewish philosophical works where they try to organize Jewish philosophy and Jewish thought. What book would I put right up there with those books? Is this book. There's nothing to do with Arabs kill Arabs. It might talk about that here and there, but his position on any foreigners in Israel who's allowed to stay, that's just halacha. It's Jewish philosophy organized. It's an unbelievable work. It's in Hebrew, it's in English, and I would suggest anyone to read the Sefer. It's a magnum opus of Rav Kahana, and he talks about the following, that he brings in our parsha. It's something to me extraordinary. He says, Hamida shel nekama mushreshet Eitz Yisrael v'Eitzel manhigim agdolim. The idea of nekama, revenge, is a very Jewish idea, he says, at the right time and place. The basic of nekama is at recess he has to borrow a ball. You don't let him borrow a ball. The next day he comes to borrow your ball. I'm not going to give you mine. Just going to give. Okay, we don't do Jew to Jew. But the idea of the Kama has its place. And he writes, Shimshon. It talks about Shimshon. He had his war against the Plishtim, and V'Shimshon akashe asuli ken asiti lem. I didn't come against them. And then the ad kedei kach. It says about him. Remember all the days I judged the Jewish people. And what was his final line as he was hooked up to the Plishtim temple? It was give me back my strength. As his eyes were knocked out, they let his hair grow, they didn't realize what was going on. And he got a little bit of strength back, but not enough to pull down the temple. And what happened? He asked God, Ve'inakma mishneh, let me do nekama. And he pulled down the whole temple. 3,000 people died, more than he killed in his lifetime. And it says, Ad Yaakov Avinu chashav sheShimshon yeh Mashiach. Yaakov saw Shimshon. He thought he's going to be the Mashiach. And then it says, Kevin Sharal Toshemeis Amar. He died. He saw Nevuah that he died. I guess he's not going to be Mashiach, which is part of the whole discussion that might be from Chabad, where the Chabadniks want to see his Mashiach. But if he died, can he be Mashiach or not? It's a whole nice question. And it should be treated like any sugya, the Rebbe, Mashiach, not Mashiach. But once, according to simple Pshat, once Yaakov saw that he died, he's not. But he could have been the Mashiach, Shimshon, who finished off his life saying, Inak ma, I want to take Nekama. So then he goes on. Kimokain, someone else, similar, Shimon and Levi. Nikmu et Nikma, they avenged, of course, whom? The sister Dinah. Ubekla Nikma Yisrael. Mishmash Merlehem B'Shechem HaYachet. They say, no, but Yaakov criticized them. And then they said, what are you doing? You're going to go ahead and cause a whole war that we can't win. And then they answered, famous 4 words, Hachzonah Yaseh Et Achotenu. We're going to let them make our sister Zona? No way. And he was quiet. Yaakov was quiet at that point. He didn't answer back. So listen to this. Unbelievable idea. It says, Ish al de globo sos lavesas ayachanu b'nei Yisrael, that we all had, each Shevet had their symbols. Okay. Amru Chazal, Simanim hayula kol nasi v'nasi. Every tribe had their own siman, their own symbol. Mapa v'tzeva kol mapa v'mapa k'tzeva shel avanim tovot shu al libo shel Aaron. Each on the breastplate, each one had a different color, and the mapa was that color. Okay, so you look at the colors here on the breastplate, and you look at the colors; they were similar. Very nice. Okay, Shimon, it goes over. It was a greenish kind of color. And does anyone want to know what picture was on Shimon's flag? Anyone want to guess? So it had a picture of Shimon learning Torah? No, I just had a really cute thing in Netzach now, where the Gan Arba kids came up to the Beis Medrash. I was with them in the Beis Medrash, and they each had their Otziot. They just learning how to read the Otziot. We didn't have like the Halakha party where they actually lick off with the what's it called, the honey. It's very sweet, but they all had it. It was very, very sweet. They all kissed the Torah. Sweet stuff. That was the picture by Shimon's mapa of Shimon kissing the Torah as a little toddler. No, it was a town. It must be the town in Israel he was going to live, where you go through the inheritance, and if you have a picture of the map of Israel, Shimon is in what section? So he is in the southern section by Yehuda, the biggest area by far. From the Dead Sea to the Yam HaGadol Mediterranean is Yehuda. Massive. Shimon was part of that area. He didn't have his own area, he had that. But it's also a very big area within Yehuda. So maybe he has a map of Beersheba. That's the picture on his flag. No. Shechem. The town that he destroyed, where he killed all the people, that's his flag. So it says, if Shimon's sin was so terrible, then why are we going ahead and waving this flag around? Is it like a musar? No. Look at what you did. So the commentary on the Medrash there, and the Medrash, of course, is Bamidbar Rabbah Bet Zayin. It's on our chapter in Bamidbar Rabbah, the famous Medrash. Shechem, he writes, why Shechem? Al HaGavura Umesiris Nafsham B'Shechem. It was because of their amazing Gevura and Mesiris Nefesh they had, B'Shechem, to wipe out the city in defense of Dinah, and we want to remember Shimon. So it's a positive. You might say, no, it's a bit of a musar. Like, look what you did. But the commentary on the Medrash says, no, not true. It's a positive.
What about Levi?
What? So what about Levi, or to put it to modern terms, is Levi chopped liver, right? And what does he say? What does he say? Levi was there too. Shimon hagadol v'ha'ikar. The main force behind the two of them was which one? Shimon v'zeu shivcho. And it is his praise and his honor that in the Midbar everyone is seeing his flag with Shechem on it. Wow, is that crazy?
Why were they criticized by Yaakov?
Oh, beautiful. So that he had the kina on the Zanus, and therefore he's praised. He's praised. Anyone have the now? Both of these is no clock. It's what time do you have?
20 after.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. Okay, thank you. So now, this is unbelievable. So no one can fall asleep during landing in Perek Beis. The other Parakim shouldn't either. But Perek Beis is an exciting Perek. This is unbelievable. He had the picture of Shechem, and the Medrash says that's what it was, and you could say from the Medrash it was a patch. It was a musar. Look what you did. You could go that way. You don't know how to learn the Medrash. But the commentary, the Mefarish on the Medrash, not Rav is Perish on them. It's the commentary. Open up any Medrash Rabbah. This is the commentary. And the authoritative commentary say, no, this was a Sheva. That he got more than Levi. Levi joined in. But the initiator, the catalyst was Shimon. But then Julie's question is right on target. So what's the criticism? Right? So he says, Bebeket Rabbi Eliezer, Shua Shimon vet Levi. Vaket Nasi Sheva Shimon Shazanim of Dinis. Shimon Levi Kinu Altaz Nus. And they had kina, good kind of jealousy against this nus that was involved, what they did to her. So he says, so the Pirkei Eliezer also praises him. Imkain, Vaday Shebishchem lo hayachei, El Mesiris Nefesh Anakama, B'mekoma u'bizmana nachon. It was appropriate revenge. There is good revenge. And there's bad revenge. Usually a Jew with another Jew having a fight, that's bad revenge. Work it out. Make shalom. Go to the rabbi. Go to the social worker. Go wherever you need to go. Go to an intermediary. Go to a mediator. Work it out. Revenge is terrible. Fights are terrible among Jews. Do anything you can. Go to the end of the world to try to stop fights between one Jew and another and see how you can make shalom. And you have to be a Breslov Chassid when you do it. Don't have Yeyish. Don't ever give up. You never know. You never know how Jews can make up and have shalom. If it's caught before it's too late. And it goes on for years and it's like cemented in. And even then, it's not impossible. Even then, it's not impossible. It's always, until the people are dead, it can happen. I know a few people for 30, 40 years didn't speak to each other. And then I remember Bell Harbor, and then one guy had a heart attack. And they were relatives. Something happened at the wedding, and this one didn't get that honor, and relatives at the wedding had just split apart. It was a disaster. And one was about 50s, got a heart attack, and about 20 years since they spoke. And the other one said, this is sick. This is sick. He survived the heart attack, and now what? One of us is going to die, and it's going to end that way. He went to visit him in the hospital, and that's it. They made shalom. So you really can't have yesh between Jew and fellow Jew. You gotta go to the end of the earth and see if there's one way or another. Lie, steal, cheat, do what you have to make shalom. That's the famous Aaron HaKohen. He wants to make peace. It's one of those heterim. Normally lying, of course, is terrible, but this is one of the cases to make shalom that he really does when he feels bad about it. A little bit of a white lie, but you want to bring them together. It's one of those areas you're allowed to do that. Fine. So, but with a Jew and a Gentile, we're not running after that so quick. And then he says that Vaday b'Shechem lo yachet is Mesiris Nefesh, and it was good nekama. Yaakov Avinu pachad. So therefore, Af Yaakov, he didn't go ahead and say that it was an evil deed. He was just saying Achatim lavisheni b'Yoshev haaretz. Practically speaking, we are a small group, and we can't really handle this. So it wasn't an ethical criticism, it was a practical one. And they said, Achzani says, Ein kan maaseh shochet, nikanu nikvat achosenu, ma'ashatam v'fached, b'chil Hashem, the chil Hashem like we have to just do whatever we have to do. And Achoy Savir Salo Tov Yom Achzona Amam Nimade Bukalik Adam Shal Hefker Lachashanu Banav Ein Zeh Parshat Shuv Yaakov. Yaakov didn't answer them. That was the end of the discussion. He accepted it. Yom Kim Yaakov Kumalei Beisel. Then they moved on. Wow, what a piece! This is an amazing, amazing piece. There's a lot here. So let me just summarize the point. I do have to leave a drop earlier today. I have a meeting coming up from the school. So let's just summarize. So you have Bamidbar with all the numbers and just the growth, the meteoric growth of Klal Yisrael from the time we went into, Egypt and coming out into the Midbar. It's just unbelievable. And we have the same today in the middle of the war we're growing in Israel. So many kids born here in Israel. We always have to appreciate how Am Yisrael, they could try to, step on us and we just keep growing and fighting back. Then you have Parak Beis, all the different camps in Israel. And that has a lot of implications for every single Jew today, everyone. And when we have the Mikdash, we do Aliyah L'Regel, Mitzvah Shem on Sunday. When we go up to the Mikdash for Aliyah L'Regel as a nation, then we're going to have to know all the places. What halachically is the Machane Yisrael? What halachically is the Machane Leviah, which is Har Bayis? What can I do? What can I do? And then in the Azara, I've been in the Azara. Wait, Paraduma. I didn't do Paraduma, but we're all Tameh. Is there a heter or not? This is all going to be Lamais. We're going to learn more about that in the Rambam next week in Hilchos, in Sefer Avoda. We'll learn next week when we do Naso, because that goes into halachas who has to go out from where. But today we focus in on Parak Beis, the flags. And of course, in the Tilami world, the flag has a lot of value and association. Rav spoke about it, and then Rav Kook spoke about it. And what was the flag? Each shaven had the old flag. Levi's flag, Shimon's flag, was Shechem. That's the medrash. Or maybe that's a criticism. Like, hey, look what you did. And always watch out, be careful, you guys are crazy. No. The medrash says it's a shevach. And he says, yeah, of course, they went ahead and did the comma in the right place. It was a Chil Hashem. But if he's saying it was a good thing then, but why did Yaakov put them down? Look closely what Yaakov did. He said, we're small, and you did an act that's just going to cause problems which we can't handle. Much like what happens today in the Israeli debate, where we give aid, we stop aid, we give aid again, and it's a question of, we have to be practical. And we have world pressure. Are we really an independent world power? Not exactly. So we have to play the game. I personally don't think there's anyone even close to the level of Bibi who can navigate through it, but everyone can argue that's fine. But we have to play the game. Although there are those who say, no, just do whatever you need to do. God's going to help. You have different approaches to that question. So he's saying Yaakov is not practical. That was what he said. Not that it's not ethical. And the answer back, Chil Hashem. Chil Hashem we have to do. And he was silent. Wow. So this is an amazing thing. What better way to finish off than to quote one of the most beautiful songs of the 20th century. To everything, turn, turn, turn. All the singers, all the folk singers, everyone sang it 50, 60 years ago. And of course it was taken from Koheles, right? And Seeger wrote it, and then everyone took it. It was a beautiful song, and it's just saying there's a time to love, a time to hate, a line to make peace, and a line to fight. And we have to be a good Jew, and a good Jew follows that pasuk. And there's a time for nekama, and that is the message of Shem. Is that crazy? Okay, everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos, and we'll meet everyone Sunday afternoon, Aliyah L'Regel in the base of Mikdash.